Hello and welcome to episode 16 of the Arctic Crafts podcast. My name is Bente and I'm coming to you from Vesterålen, northern Norway, where I live with my husband and our 3 cats. You can find me on Instagram as Arctic Crafts, on Facebook as Arctic Crafts by Bente, on Etsy as Arctic Crafts by Bente, and on Ravelry as Arctic Crafts 65. Happy New Year, everybody, and I hope you had a really nice holiday. I had a really nice, relaxing holiday with my family, and just the way I like it. Lots of good food and lots of knitting. And I got a few new subscribers over Christmas, and a big welcome to you, and of course a welcome back to my returning viewers. And I want to start with what I'm wearing because it's really hot in here, so I want to take this off. So I just want to tell you about it first. This is a test knit I did for rhyFlower knits. It's called the Jessamy shawl, and it's being released at the end of this month. And I knit it as a sample in my own yarn. And as you can see, this is a really gorgeous shawl. And it's the perfect shawl for the Christmas holiday because you have these rest sections that are mindless knitting, and then you have something you have to focus a bit on. And the 2 colorways I've used are Rock Garden is the garter sections, and the lace sections are Guacamole. And I love the way those 2 colors play together because there are some chartreuse speckles in the Rock Garden, and they pop because of the guacamole. So I really love this shawl, but it's too warm to wear inside, especially when you're my age. I can't remember who said it, but somebody called it having a personal summer, and I love that expression. So let's put it this way. My favorite sweater these days are cardigans, because those are really easy to put on and take off again. And something I have to remember to do right at the beginning. In episode 15, I had a giveaway to celebrate that I have had 100 subscribers. I've actually reached 200 since then. And I know 100 isn't a big number, but I wanted to have something to work for. And I used a random number generator on all the comments from episode 15. And the winner is Vicky Shaw. Congratulations. Please contact me, and either on Instagram or Ravelry, whatever works best for you. And I'll send you the orange shawl kit because that was the one you wanted. And with that out of the way, let's just move on to FOs. As I was saying, I got a lot of knitting done during Christmas. And one of these, I think only one of these was featured in the Vlogmas episodes, but I didn't talk a lot about it. You just saw me knitting on it. And I talked about it in episode 15. And this thing, I'm not sure when I get to use this thing because it's so big. But it's the Fade into Advent by Paperdaisy Creations. And I used my Advent calendar from Nora George to knit it. And let's just see. We'll just start in one end. And we'll take it slowly. It was a really fun pattern to knit. I had to hack it a bit because my numbers kept going wrong, so fortunately that's just decreasing and increasing, and I'm sorry about that sound because I forgot to put my computer on silent, so I'll just do that and then we won't be interrupted again, hopefully. So you started, I should start with the middle, because you started with knitting a square and then you started moving out to the sides, and as you can see, this is really, really long. So if I'm going to use this, I probably have to use it as a scarf, because fortunately it isn't that wide, but see what I mean? It's really, really long. So if I'm going to wear this, it will probably be when it's really cold, and because we live by the coast, it never gets that cold. So maybe I should have knit a different pattern, but it's beautiful. So at least I have one of these. It's and the good thing about this, the thing that makes it this long is of course that you use the entire 20 gram minis. Actually, I ran out a couple of times, but fortunately I had a bit left over of different colors, so I managed to make it work. So that's my fade into Advent, and then I finished another thing, and this is a whip that had been hibernating for a while because I wanted to start a new project, and as I was looking for a project bag, I found this, and it turned out I didn't have much left, so I decided to finish this first. And this also is a shawl, and this is the Dumbley shawl by Kay Jones of the Bakery Bears, and it was part of her Swish and Flick collective. All of those patterns are now available on Ravelry as individual patterns, so you can get just this. And the bind-off was real fun. It was a crocheted bind-off, and I really like it, because a picot bind-off takes a lot of time. This went much faster, but you have to be you have to know how to crochet. If you don't know how to crochet, you can still knit this shawl. You can just bind it off in the normal fashion, or maybe do a picot bind-off. And this is another shawl that's really, really big, and I don't use worsted shawls because they are too warm. But I didn't knit this to use it as a shawl. I knit this to use it on the couch as a blanket. So I guess this is what you call a schlanket. And the color, I forgot to say, the yarn is my yarn. It's Arctic Crafts, and this section is fireweed, and the grey is antique silver. And I really enjoyed knitting this. I really get easily bored, so those garter sections were kind of a pain to get through, but I really love this technique. So this is beautiful, and it's, as I say, going to be on the couch as a blanket. And I had an ulterior motive choosing these colors because we have 3 cats, and 2 of them are white with black spots, and the last is all black. And you cat owners out there, you know cats shed. Hopefully the cat hairs won't show as well on this shawl. And that's my FOs. And this is a knitting podcast, so let's get on with the knitting. First I have to show you, I was tired of having the couch beside me being filled up with project bags. So I picked up this, and it's perfect because I can get 3 or 4 projects in this, and this is sitting beside me on the couch, and it looks much more organized than just a pile of project bags. The thing is, the cats have decided that this is a cat bed, and I'm going to insert a couple of photos here that show you what the basket normally looks like. But the knitting is protected in project bags, so all I have to do is remove some cat hairs from the project bags every now and then. And then I'll show you some actual knitting. This has been hibernating for quite some time, and I wanted to start a new sweater, so I decided I had to finish this first. And this is I'm of course in the middle of a row. I'll show you anyway. It's the East Coast Girl by Veera, Välimäki. And it's knit in her, I think it's the Audrey colorway. No, not colorway. Audrey sock base. Or all her bases are named after famous movie stars. And the color is Rose Sauve. And I know this is going to get a lot of views when it's finally finished. But I'm at the body of it, and it's all stockinette and back and forth. So it's kind of boring at the moment, and that of course led me to cast on the new sweater that I wasn't supposed to cast on. So I'm afraid this is going to start hibernating again. But I knitted to use it in spring anyway, so I'll use that as an excuse. The new sweater got cast on yesterday, and it's the Gardengate by Jennifer Steingass, and I'm knitting it in 2 colors, of course, because if you've seen it you know it's a 2-color pattern. And one of the yarns, excuse the messy cake, is Yarn Ink in the colorway Amore. It's their classic sock. And the other colorway is My Antique Silver on Fine Merino. And yes, I know, this is low contrast, but I wanted a subtle contrast in the pattern because I'm not too fond of really, what you call it in English, really in-your-face contrast on yoked sweaters. This is what it looks like knit up. You can see the pattern, but it's really subtle. And I just know this sweater is going to be beautiful when it's finished. It looks real big. It's really squashed up on the needle, but I checked the gauge and I rechecked the gauge. So my gauge is where it's supposed to be. It's a bit, it's a bit over, it's one stitch over when I did the gauge swatch. So I had one size that was exactly my size and one that was bigger, and usually I don't like knitting fitted sweaters with no or ease or negative ease. So because my gauge was a bit loose, I knitted the smallest size, and I suppose I'm going to get about an inch of ease or something. And as I was saying, I'm really looking forward to getting this done because I know I'm going to wear it a lot. And that was the Gardengate. I said it was Jennifer Steingass, and it's in a project bag by Busy Pottering. And this is my favorite sweater bag because it's really, really big. It's almost big enough to use for blankets. I actually have a skein of the color I'm using in the East Coast Girl. So I can show you the logo for Beehive Yarns. This is what it looks like, and this is the blend of the sock yarn. It was lying in my basket, so I was probably planning on caking up the last skein, but I didn't get that done. And I have a couple of pairs of socks on the needles, and one of them is a pair of socks that are, the design is by Marit from the podcast Garnbutikken Fortuna. They also have a yarn store. They both have a brick and mortar shop, and they have a web shop as well. And they are the shop where I buy my hedgehog fibers and Martin's Lab. I'm not sure if they ship internationally, but I'll give you the link to their shop down below. And this sock pattern is perfect because it changes up all the time, so it never gets boring. And I dare you to pronounce the name of the pattern because it's Notokur. And that's Norwegian, and it's in Marit's dialect. And Notokur, in my dialect, we would say Nokka akvart. And it means a little bit of everything. And it's the perfect name for these socks. I'm knitting these in my yarn, Polldale sock, in the colorways Himmel og Hav. And Himmel og Hav is also Norwegian, and it means sky and ocean. Because what else could I call this colorway? You see, the yarn is a bit kinky, but is kinky the word? That doesn't sound right, that the yarn is kinky. But you say that things have a kink in them? Okay, never mind. I was knitting vanilla socks with this yarn. I started a pair of vanilla socks with this yarn to have as a project when I vended at a fair in, I think it was November. But I didn't touch them afterwards because they were vanilla socks and they had been lying around since then. But I figured they were the perfect colorway for a pattern like this, because if the yarn had been too busy, the pattern would get lost. The other pair of socks I'm knitting on actually is a vanilla pair, and they are for my oldest son because he loved this colorway, so he wanted this pair of socks. And I knit these as a tube, and I'm going to put in an afterthought heel. The reason I did this, I normally only do this on self-striping, but I wanted to make sure they were the right size, so I didn't put in a heel so I could measure his feet when he was here for Christmas. And this is how far I've gotten on the second sock. I normally never knit my socks toe up either, but I wanted to do it a different way for once. I'm knitting. This is 64 stitches on a 2.25 needle, and these are my Knit Pro carbons DPNs. I bought these needles just to test out the carbons. I love Knit Pro Sings, and I wanted to try the carbons. And that's the active whips. I of course have a lot of other whips, but those are the active ones. And if we're going over to show and tell, because I have a lot to show you. And not all of it is things I've bought. Some of it is presents. Just needed some coffee. The presents, let's just start with my Christmas presents from Crafty Knitter 7, Sue in Canada. She was a bit worried that my Christmas present wouldn't get here before Christmas, and it didn't. But who cares? I got to celebrate Christmas again in January when I opened the package. And I got to open everything straight away because Christmas had come and gone. And I have to rummage a bit because I have so much to show you. But in the present from Sue were 2 beautiful project bags that she made herself, and this is the perfect size for a pair of socks. And I love the box construction, and I love the fabric as well. It's really nice. And that's one of them, and the other one, I think this is big enough for a sock project, but I love this detail. There's a zip pocket on the outside, and that was a really nice detail. So she sent me those project bags, and she sent me something really, really special, a skein of hand spun. And she spun this herself. And the colors are absolutely gorgeous. And I decided that this, because it's so soft and beautiful, I want to use up the entire skein when I knit something with it. So I have decided to knit a cowl, and no pattern because the yarn is variegated. I'll just cast on about 100 to 120 stitches and knit for as long as the yarn goes. So when I'm out of yarn, I'm binding off, or when I'm almost out of yarn, I'm binding off, and it gets as long as it gets, to put it that way. So this is going to be a cowl for me, of course. She also sent me some minis. I think a couple of them are from her advent calendar, and the rest, the other 2 are from Stash. And you would think she knows me, because they're all pink, and not just pink, really pink. So as I was saying, they're so pink, they're actually scaring the shit out of my camera because they are so pink. And these lovely minis are going into my granny blanket. I'm going to show you that as a whip a bit later on. They're going into my granny stripe blanket. This one is about these 2 might get used. They're for heels and toes because they're not that variegated. But no, they're going in my granny stripe blanket. That's the end of it. And she also sent me 2 ornaments. This cute little thing that actually, I don't know if you can show. I can show you this. No, you can't see what the ornament is like. It's a wooden ornament with a Christmas tree on it. And this is being put with the rest of my Christmas decorations, and I'm going to use it next year. And she also sent me another Christmas ornament, but because this is blue, I'm going to hang it up somewhere and have it out all year, because it's blue, so it's not Christmassy. And that's what one of the presents. That's my Christmas present. And before I get the rest, before I get up the other things I got, maybe I should show you the things I bought, because they're on top. First I'll show you, when I bought the advent calendar from Nora George, I bought the one with 24 minis and 1 full skein. And the full skein this time actually was a sock set. And this is beautiful. It's Faithful Friends Who Are Dear to Us, it's called. Maybe I should do that so you can see what it says. And the colors are absolutely gorgeous. Look at that teal. And I love her sock sets because she often has a really light speckling, so you can knit socks that has textured pattern in them without losing the pattern. So this of course is going to become socks. And I also bought some yarn from her because she had this clear out sale of her yarn bases that she no longer has in her shop and stuff like that, and she did it as a mystery sale. So you paid for 2 skeins of yarn and you didn't know what you got, of course at a discounted price. And none of these bases are in her shop at the moment, but here you can see one of them. And this is the fiber content. It's a merino cotton, and the color is just beautiful. I'm not a green person, but this is one of the greens I like. I like lime green, and you saw the guacamole. That's I wouldn't call this is more of a lime green, I would say. And it's really soft and wonderful, and I'm going to knit a 1 skein shawl of this for use in the summer because of the cotton content. And this is the other one, and this is 100% Corriedale sock, no nylon, but you can see it's a high twist. And Corriedale is a durable yarn. I know because I have Corriedale in my shop myself, and it's a durable yarn, so you can get away with knitting socks with it because of the high twist. And but this is a really nice neutral because it's not in your face yellow, it's kind of greenish yellow. And I have a sneaking suspicion that she paired up these two because she thought they looked good together. And I might actually do a 2-color shawl, or I can use this with the different colors for a 2 or 3 color shawl, because I want to use this as a 1 skein shawl. Because of the cotton content, it has a totally different feel than this, because Corriedale is kind of, I wouldn't say rustic, but it's a bit toothy. So it's I'm not sure they would go together because the drape would be different. So but I'm really pleased with that. And you got some goodies as well. I got a bath bomb that's already in the bathroom, and I can't use it because we don't have a bathtub. So I'll probably just hold on to it and gift it to someone I know have a bathtub. And I also got 2 chocolates that of course have been eaten. And that was what she got me. If I'm not mistaken, no, I think there was something else. There was a tiny bar of wool soap, because she started selling homemade soaps, and it smelled really nice, and I could show it to you. But it's a soap bar. You know what the soap bar looks like, and it smelled like, it was called Winter Spices, I think. So the smell was really nice. I'm going to use it the same way I use all my other small wool soaps, in my project bags, so my knitting smells amazing. And that was, I got 2 bags of, 1 bag of stitch markers, and a bag with progress keepers. And I think she made these herself, because she used to have an Etsy shop where she sold bags and stitch markers and progress keepers. And she also sent me something that I had to ask her, what are these? Maybe you know what they are, but I didn't, so I had to ask her. Turns out these are stoppers to have on the back side of your pins on the project bags, so they don't fall off. So I'm replacing the backs on all my pins with these. And talking about pins, these are some of them. This is a Fringe Supply tote bag, by the way. And I'll just have to replace the backs on all of these with the stoppers that Sue sent me for Christmas. And I have bought some more yarn. I was talking about Garnbutikken Fortuna, and I was thrilled when I discovered that they had hedgehog fibers, because I love hedgehog fibers. I might buy a sweater quantity one day, but for now I bought 2 skeins of their sock yarn. I'm not sure I trust this for socks, because as you can see, it's only 10% nylon, and it's not particularly high twist either. So, but these would end up in shawls anyway, I think, because of the colors. This is called DRK, and this is called Guppy. And as I was saying, I bought this from Garnbutikken Fortuna here in Norway. And I have a subscription going with a shop called You Felty Thing, located in Wales. And she sends out, every month I get a skein of yarn and some extras, because I have the deluxe set or something. This was the last one I got. It's from the Stitch Foundry, and as you can see, it's 50% superwash merino, 50% tencel, and this is so smooth and so soft, and I'm imagining the drape on this will be fantastic. So this also might be used for a 1 skein wonder. I might use these 2 together, that actually works, because the drape would be almost the same in these 2. And that's all the yarn I bought, and I'm not planning on buying any more yarn until February, because in the end of February, me and hubby are taking my oldest son, and we're going to Brighton. We tend to go to England all the time. The yarn for the East Coast Girl, for example, the beehive, that was bought in York, because beehive yarns are located in York, and we spent last Easter in York. And Beth from Beehive Yarns was kind enough to drop off a sweater quantity of her yarn at our hotel. So that was really nice of her. And there are two yarn stores I wanted to visit while we were in England, when we're going there now. And one of them is located in Brighton, where we're going to stay, and it's Yak. And I love the name because it's short for yarn and knitting, but it also stands for yak, the animal. And they have loads of brands that I would like to see live, if you know what I mean. And so they have a really good selection. And I also wanted to do kind of a pilgrimage to Tribe Yarns in London, because we're spending one day in London. My son is a musician, and you have some in London. There is a street called Denmark Street, and that's all musicians' shops, all the way down the street. And so that's kind of his pilgrimage, I guess. So we're going to Denmark Street, and I wanted to go to Tribe Yarns. But then we looked at the map, and it turns out that Tribe Yarns is located in a part of London called Richmond. And to get there, we had to... in London, the underground has zones. Zone 1, 2, 3, and so on. And you have to pay quite a lot for a day ticket if you want to go all the way out to zone 5, where Richmond is. So my husband just told me, you can actually buy 2 skeins extra of yarn at Yak in Brighton for what we have to pay to get out to Tribe Yarns in London. And there's nothing else to do in Richmond. Of course, there are restaurants, we could have lunch there or something, but I'm greedy. I like the sound of 2 extra skeins of yarn. And Tribe Yarns, they have a web shop. And the most important brands for me to look at, they actually have in Brighton as well. Ching Fibre is one I remember. I think the other one was Malabrigo and Brooklyn Tweed. I think they have that both in Brighton and London. So I'm actually going to pass on Tribe Yarns for now, because I know we're going back to England. We're kind of done with London. We've been to London enough, because London is a really, really big city, and both me and my husband love going to cities on holiday. But we've been to London, as I say, we've been to London as many times as we want, because we've seen all the things. And we're not kind of the touristy people. We're not going to all the main attractions necessarily. We want to discover new parts of the city. We can go with the underground to a different part of London and see new things. But a weekend in London is kind of enough. Okay, so my husband proposed to me in London. The first trip we went there together. So, okay. So kind of sentimental. But I'm not that sentimental. And the proposal wasn't all that romantic either. We just had dinner at a restaurant one evening, and he just took my hands across the table and he just asked me, Bente, would you like to marry me? And I just said, yes. And that was it. We were engaged. So, not really a romantic, sentimental proposal. I went out on a tangent because I was going to show you one more whip. I talked about my granny stripe blanket, but I didn't show you my granny stripe blanket. I'll just put this back in here. So I get... This is what happens when you have a lot to show. You both... it's a mess and everything is all over the place. And this was great fun, so I actually got quite a lot done on it. And the only thing I have decided for this blanket is that all the yarn I use in this crocheted blanket is going to be hand dyed. Because I have kind of this size leftovers. Not enough for heels and toes, and some of it is too variegated anyway. And because it's variegated, it doesn't get that stripy, if you know what I mean. It's kind of subtle. And it smells amazing because there's wool soap in the bag. I just cast on about my wingspan. So it's going to be about, I'm about 160 centimeters, 1.60 meters, and this is about 20 centimeters longer than my wingspan, so 180 centimeters wide. But this is kind of an eternal project, I guess, because I'm going to crochet up all the leftovers that I have at the moment that are hand dyed, and afterwards I'll just knit in as I go, as I finish new projects. So that blanket will last me for at least a couple of years, I guess. And then I'm going to show you a really, truly wonderful package I got from a nice lady in the US called Annie Knitter on Instagram. This whole thing started with her asking me if I could please get her some gift tags for Christmas present that said til and fra. That's Norwegian, from, to and from. And maybe even God Jul instead of Merry Christmas. And I love the challenge because in Norway everything is starting to be Americanized, especially around the holidays. So a lot of Norwegian gift tags actually says to and from and Merry Christmas. I know, it's weird, but that's just the way it is. So I sent her some gift tags, and I popped in a sock set from my Christmas yarn this year, the Deck the Halls. And I'm so glad I did, because she said she would send me something, and I didn't expect this. First of all, this wonderful, beautiful project bag. Look at the attention of detail. She made this. And she only makes bags for fun, so you can't get one of these. She only does it for fun. And it's beautiful. I love this color, yellow. It's kind of mustardy. But that's not all. I put everything in the bag so I can show you. This was a fun thing. I've never seen one of these before. It's called, it's from Knit Picks, and it's called a Hawthorne sock reel. And it's kind of a sock blank, but it's just like a ribbon almost. And it's about 357 yards, so it's almost like a sport. So I might knit these on 2.5 millimeter needles. And that's not all. She also sent me 2 minis that she thought would go well with that, because she imagined that 357 yards is not enough for a pair of socks. So she sent me 2 minis from her stash, I guess. This beautiful orange is going in my blanket, and I'm using this grey for the socks. I'm using this grey. This orange is really, really bright, and I'm I'm using the pink minis from my friend Sue in my crochet blanket, and I'm using this in my crochet blanket because I'm going to work on that thing for a long time, and after it's finished, some of the colors in it would make me smile because I remember, that's something I got from that person. That orange is something I got from Anne. So this developed into being a swap actually, and it was great fun. And she also sent me this ornament, and I only have baubles and lights on my Christmas tree. I'm strange that way. So other Christmas ornaments get hung up other places. But I don't think this is actually... Also, okay, you have Christmas trees and snowflakes, but I'm not sure I'm going to use this as a Christmas ornament. I'll probably hang it up somewhere right away. And she also sent me some tea, and of course she sent me some American gift tags, because why not? And these stickers and to and from tags, and I'm going to use these. There are several sheets in here. I'm going to save one of them as a keepsake, but the others I'm going to use them. And the last thing I'm going to show you last, because I want to talk a bit about it, and this is really special. It's a bit blurry, but you can read what it says. It says Arctic Crafts by Bente, and it's a scented candle, a scented soy candle, and it smells wonderful. And I wanted to use it, but I wanted to show it to you first. And I'm going to tell you about this candle because Anne's daughter has an Etsy shop called The Secret Owl, and I went in. I got curious, so I went in and looked at it because Anne told me this was from her daughter's Etsy shop, and she has lots of fun candles in her shop, but you can also have them personalized. And this jar, when the candle is all used up, I'm going to clean this and use it for progress keepers, because I love the fact that it says Arctic Crafts by Bente. So thank you, Anne. That was really nice of you to put that in there. So, as I was saying, this turned into being a swap. And it was great fun, and me and Anne are thinking about doing another swap at a later date, because it was really good fun. And speaking of swaps, we just finished Christmas, and next year I plan on doing an advent calendar swap with my good friend Sue. We're just going to send each other 24 minis, and I'm also going to, in addition to that, I'm thinking about doing an advent calendar in my shop. I'm going to check if people are interested first, because I just started my shop. I just been open about a year. It's a year about this time, I think. And I'm planning to do an advent calendar. And I'm also planning to do a club of sorts this year. I'm going to call it Arctic Seasons. And I'm going to send a package out every quarter. One going out in March, one going out in June, one in September, and one in December. And I'm going to reach out to other local indie makers to get extras to put in the boxes, in addition to a skein of my yarn. And I'm in the process of doing that now, and again, I'm going to check if people are interested, because there's no use in doing a lot of work and maybe have one person being interested. So I'm going to put out either on Instagram or on Facebook or something, just to check, because I have to do a lot of work to make this happen, and as I was saying, it's a pity if that's just a waste of time. So I'm going to check that first. Yesterday I did a little bit of recording to record how I knit colorwork, because I knit in what's been called the Norwegian way, and it's not meant as a tutorial, it's just me recording myself knitting colorwork. And I'm knitting on the Gardengate sweater in the recording, and I'll just put that in here. If anybody is interested, I'll try to make a more detailed film where I have the camera properly mounted behind me so you can see close up what I'm doing, if anybody's interested. But that's how I learned how to knit colorwork when I was 13, and I've always knitted colorwork that way since. And the only thing that remains is to show you what I've been dyeing up this week. I have dyed some more, but that's in the bathroom drying, because I started dyeing again. The Christmas is at an end, so I had to start working again. And what I've dyed up so far is this. This is a new colorway. I was planning on doing something flamingo, and then it dawned on me that I have a colorway called Arctic Maki. It's a salmon color, but it's salmon pink, white and greyish black. And if I was to put black in this for the beak and the feet of the flamingo, it would look too much like a colorway I already had. So I wasn't sure what to call this, and I suggested, as a joke, to my good friend Sue that maybe headless flamingo, and she loved it. So headless flamingo it is. I have a really good friend called Trine that loves everything flamingo, and she will probably be heartbroken by me beheading one, but headless flamingo. And I made another new colorway. It's just a tonal blue, and this reminded me of the jeans we wore in the 80s that were stonewashed. So this is stonewashed denim. It's not an exciting colorway name, but that's what it looks like. So stonewashed denim. I forgot to tell you, the flamingo is dyed on Polldale sock, and this is also dyed up on Polldale sock. And I knit one colorway on Corriedale as well, and that's my Pac-Man. And this is the first and last time I'm dyeing this on Corriedale, because Corriedale is a non-superwash, and because it's a non-superwash, the colors tend to bleed a bit because they have longer time to get into the yarn. So the colors, as you can see here, has bled a bit into the blue. It looks perfectly fine in the sock. It's just that I'm disappointed in them, but I'm a perfectionist. So I have 3 skeins on Corriedale, going into the shop next Sunday, and that's it. The next time Pac-Man is going into the store, it's on pole there. I have some Pac-Man on worsted in my shop, by the way, and I think it would make a really fun hat. Because, and as I said, I'm going to have an update next Sunday, because in December I started doing an update every other Sunday instead of every Sunday, because some weeks I get a lot of dyeing done and some weeks I don't get a lot of dyeing done, so I'll just save up for 2 weeks and then do an update. But there's lots of yarn in the shop, so no need to hurry up with an update, so next Sunday it is. And that's what I had for this episode. I hope you have a wonderful weekend and a really nice week next week. And I'll see you again for episode 17 next Friday.